Welcome to You've Only Come to Hear United. Manchester United 3, Bodo Glimt 2. I'm Rich Lewis. We're not going to go into too much detail today. There's not much I can really say that everybody else hasn't already said, but I was really impressed with that second half. I think we've seen under Erik ten Hag where we've given away leads, and once Bodo Glimt seem to have a bit of momentum behind them, I think the United of the last year or so would have crumbled under that pressure. We saw it happen to us numerous times in the Champions League last season, and yeah, we could have easily crumbled again. And I think if this had been United of several weeks ago, we may well have done, but we didn't, and we came back out in the second half, and I thought we looked a much better team. We played quite well in the first half, despite the two goals for Bodo Glimt. They almost came out of completely against the run of play out of nowhere. But it didn't damage our morale. Second half, we really dominated the game until maybe the end when they were pushing to try and get an equaliser. They weren't really in it. It was how many goals can we score? And if it wasn't for misses from Garnacho and Rashford, that should have been out of sight. And that's probably maybe an area for concern still, that we're not finishing those chances we're creating. But by the flip side of that, the one massive positive was Rasmus Hojlund. I've been a long time backer of Hojlund, and it worried me recently, some of the criticism he was getting, because the narrative around United at the moment is we don't score enough goals, and that is true. But I didn't think in Hojlund's case it was anything that he was doing wrong necessarily. I think there were areas of his game he can improve, but nothing that maybe you wouldn't expect for someone of his age. He's not the finished article yet. We brought, raw talent. He scored 16 goals, and he's across all competitions in his first season, which was really good. I think, considering the circumstances around the club, the position we were in, he was the main striker. Coming into that age, and really he should have had somebody else in front of him. Yeah, I thought it was a big ask last season for him to be the main man to lead the line, and I think he did a reasonably good job too. And then this season, it's not been as good, but I've maintained for a long time, even going into last season, he just hasn't had the service. The amount of things he's had to create himself has been ridiculous. And if you go back and watch his goals for United, the amount where he's had to really pull a rabbit out of the hat to find the space to score the goal. For every goal maybe that was put on a plate for him, there weren't many of those, or at least every goal he was put in a reasonable position to score, there's probably two more that he's had to more or less create himself. And we've seen this season he's been completely deprived of service, and he showed yesterday that even given half a chance, he'll score. The second one was really encouraging, the way we put that move together in a similar-ish way, I think, to how the Rashford goal against Ipswich. You could see bit of a sort of theme there, which was positive to see. You can see an avenue to how we might score goals on a consistent basis in a particular way, which we didn't have under Ten Hag. The first one, though, for me, was what excited me about it was it's a demonstration again to the players around him that all I need is half a yard and I can do something like this. And you didn't even create a chance for me. You can't really say that was a chance. It's coming to him at a difficult height, and for the control to get the control and shot in that quickly, give him actual clear-cut chances, and you'd really expect to see him score a lot of goals this season potentially. But the team have got to create those chances for him. I think Rashford and Garnacho showed once again how erratic they can be when they get into that position. Rashford worries me more out of the two when he gets those striking opportunities because of his age and the fact that you'd want to see more composure from him now. Garnacho, maybe even for another season or two. It's not surprising what he's developing to snatch at things and get a bit excited at times and maybe not look for the pass when he should shoot. Decision making isn't often there for young players, and apart from the world class talents, which he may become, but he's not at this point in time. And he's got a long way to go to improve, but you can almost forgive him that in a way. Also playing in an unfamiliar position too, but that doesn't excuse the striking element. We know he's a good striker of the ball. It's just, I guess, refining his mentality and having more composure when he gets in those potential goal scoring situations, and especially when he's got time to think as well. So I don't worry too much about him from that perspective. The back, the defensive side of things was a little bit worrying. I thought you can see we're pressing up the pitch. You can see it against Ipswich too, and we saw Johnny Evans get caught out a couple of times. De Ligt get caught out, and again today, I think we saw Mazraoui going forwards at one point and getting caught out. Martinez pushed forward and left spacing for when Malacia obviously made his error afterwards. So I don't know if, I mean, obviously Amorim is telling them to push up, but I don't know if they're doing it at the right times. It's really hard to see without asking Amorim himself where the mistake is. Was the mistake, for example, in the Malacia one, that Martinez is pushed so high up the pitch that he's not in a position to help and support and cover, or he is meant to be doing that and the rest of the team didn't adjust to cover that? I think that's something we'll see more as the weeks go on, to see what to expect of the defensive setup, because I mean I haven't got that quite nailed down yet in terms of who's meant to be doing what. You can see what people are doing, but you don't know who's in the right and who's in the wrong necessarily. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see how that pans out, because they've got to sort that out. At the moment, it's quite worrying knowing Arsenal are coming up, because yeah, we're going to be open. We're going to be there for the taking defensively right now. There's a little bit of time before them, but the game against Everton before that too. So hopefully they can iron a few things out. But I think that's going to take a while. I think getting used to this defensive setup could be interesting. And it's not really a three at the back thing. It's not a system thing. It's more of what Amorim wants them to do within whichever structure he chooses. He said himself yesterday that, you know, out of possession we were effectively 4-4-2. Well, not 4-4, but 4 at the back anyway. So he's capable of creating tweaks to help and support us, and it might be that when we do come to a tougher game against the likes of Arsenal, he has to, you know, tweak things just to make us, you know, steadier for that game. And it's nice to see that he's willing to do that, because under Erik ten Hag, at times, I was thinking about this earlier, and I just think what Amorim's doing isn't dramatically different from Erik ten Hag in some respects, especially on the ball in attacking areas. But he seems to be willing to alter things enough to give us an advantage in games where I felt Ten Hag at times was banging the same drum over and over again. And it was there for the taking for him. I think success at Manchester United was there for the taking for Erik ten Hag. And he dug his heels in about doing certain things in certain ways and failed to adapt in the same way that he did in the first season. He talked at times about, you know, De Gea ended up kicking it a bit longer because we had to adapt in that respect because he couldn't play it from the back as much. I'm sure he alluded to at times having to compromise on his style a little bit to get results. And after that, he wanted to move into his thing in the second season, which seems reasonable enough. But we had success in that first season. And with the players he had at hand, I just felt at times like you were going to have to compromise a little bit here, because you tried your thing and it wasn't quite working. You adapted. That did work for us. I don't think we made sweeping changes in the transfer market in terms of his style. He'd already come out and said he wasn't going to play like his Ajax team played. And I think he could have adjusted things more to give us a winning formula, and maybe just put his own plan, you know, back a bit and let it evolve over a longer period of time. I think he tried to force things quicker and it didn't work. And now we know Amorim, he's trying to do something similar, whereby he's coming and going, we're going to do it my way from the off, and then we'll go from there. But he's already shown very early on in these games that he'll tweak and twist, as we saw with the little shift in tactics at the start of the second half, where sort of Dalot came more central and Garnacho pulled out wide, but he kind of kept to his principles, and then he moved back to the sort of 3-4-3 the style he started the game with. I think it's just tweaking things on the fly like that, which might be the difference between Ruben Amorim's Man United and Erik ten Hag's Man United. Just having that little bit more adaptability at times to manage a moment, still keeping to your philosophy in over a longer period of time. And I just don't think sometimes in the moment Ten Hag was quick enough to do things. I know it can be seen as a weakness, for example, using too many subs too early, and sometimes you want to see things play out. Ollie was definitely guilty of that many times too, where you thought he should be more proactive, and then he just wasn't. You know, he didn't make his subs quick enough or react quick enough. And it was one of my bigger worries about the potential of Gareth Southgate coming in, because I think he is also very guilty of that, sometimes not making changes quick enough for England, and it would drive me absolutely mad. But Ruben Amorim has already shown that he will make changes when necessary, whether it's managing minutes or to affect or impact a game. He's feels like he's ready to do what is needed to get results and get the output from the team that he wants to see. So I think we're in safe hands. There's definitely promising developments in the Bodø Glimt game from the Ipswich game, and I'm looking forward now to the Everton game and just seeing again which tweaks and changes he makes to the team for that. I'd love to see Kobbie Mainoo come in and see how he works within this sort of structure and setup. I want to see how Mason Mount develops in the system, because he definitely feels like a good fit for him. And he's gone from looking like a really awkward fit for Manchester United to actually suddenly looking like an ideal fit potentially going forward. So yeah, definitely want to see how that pans out. Yeah, one more combinations in the 10s. Wing back roles, I want to see something different too. I thought Anthony he started off okay, and then I was tearing my hair out by the end of the half, because it was just, I've never seen somebody so one-footed in my life. Yet he can. We were sitting on occasion, hit a ball with his right foot. He can hit it with his right foot, but he just point blank refuses to. And probably my one frustration with Amorim so far is the reluctance to, just at this very, very early window. This isn't like, big criticism or anything like that, but it seems to be that little bit of a reluctance to have somebody on their correct foot at wing back. It's just because obviously Dalot came on in the second half to left wing back, and again there's too much cutting inside, too much passing it back, and he helps to retain possession. Maybe that was what he was looking for more so in this game, to work the ball back to the other side of the pitch to look for an opening. But the guys have got to be willing to go on the weaker foot. You have to be able to go outside and inside, and having no outside threat from those two in particular was frustrating. I mean, we saw against Ipswich, Ahmad was willing to go onto his right foot, and he obviously created the goal for Rashford by doing that. And you have to be able to do that, because it just limits our threat on both flanks if you aren't willing to go on your other foot. And it'd be the same if you were working on your proper foot. You've got to be willing to come on your other one. But I think the lesser of the two evils is being on your correct foot and at least being able to get to the ball and pull it back convincingly if you're not sure about your weaker foot. Being able to cut inside and whip a ball in, I don't think it's as much of a strength in this type of system. I think it's having two wide players as opposed to having four, i.e. two fullbacks and two wingers, but just having your two wing backs who are primarily your wide players. You want width from them, otherwise you do become too narrow. And even though they held the touchline well, the players who played in those positions, including Malacia, who, moving on to Malacia, actually, it was good to see him back. I thought he had a poor game, but I'm not going to hold that against him. I'm not doing player ratings today, in part because I think it was hard to judge them, because I thought players in general, putting Malacia to one side, I thought we saw really good moments from players at times, and also really poor moments. There almost seemed to be good games and bad games for individuals within the same game in different ways at different times. But yeah, I probably should finish this on Malacia actually. Just really good to see him back. People are going to have patience with him. It's his only second 45 minutes since he returned, and only his first 45 in the first team. We don't know if he's going to be the right standard to play for us. He's been out for so long, and he's not had that development and evolution that he might not be up to the standard to play for us. But that's not a reason to criticise his performance. It's not fair on someone who's been out that long. It's going to take time. He's going to need more than Rusty playing at this level. So it was just good to have him back as another option, alongside Luke Shaw. Obviously, he's been back in the last couple of games as well. I'm expecting a win against Everton. Looking forward to seeing a few more changes to the team. Hopefully Hojlund keeps his place up front and continues to score goals. And yeah, I'll catch you all after the Everton game next week. See you later.